Okay, what we're now going to do is utilise the mouse to actually format the spreadsheet. What you saw previously was this spreadsheet in that slide, and what we're now going to do is look at it and format it. So the first thing we're going to do is add a major heading for the actual spreadsheet. So to do that, I need to add an extra row at the top of the actual spreadsheet. So what you saw in the previous slide is that when the mouse becomes the very dark black arrow, it will highlight an entire row or an entire column. So that means that anything that you then do would apply for either the column or the row. So what we're going to do is add a row. So we're going to highlight that and then just right mouse click and just say insert. And you can see everything moves down and that row 1 is now empty. So we're going to put in a heading which is annual expenditure. And we'd like to actually make this look a bit more professional, so we're going to bold it and make it a bit bigger. But it still looks a bit odd because it's all on one location. So we're going to ask it to actually centre it across these columns. And all you have to do is click, control click with the mouse, and you see that the actual big white square big white cross appears, which is the select option. And you're just going to drag it to highlight the cells that you'd like that heading to be centered across. And then on your actual ribbon stroke toolbar, you've got the merge and center. And what this does is it takes the information and spreads it across those columns. So now you can see that annual expenditure is all located in cell A1. Before it was over, there was A1, B1, C1. That does not exist because we've now merged those cells into one big cell. So now let's say we want to actually format the actual column headings. So let's say we want to actually make it bold, make it slightly bigger, and let's say we're going to change the colour. Let's make it green. Now, I could have highlighted all the cells at one go and done the actual formatting, but if I'd forgotten to do that, and I've now already done that, and I'd like to actually have the same formatting for those other headings, we have an actual tool called the Format Painter. When you click the Format Painter once, it only allows you to use that formatting once. However, if you double click on the Format Painter, then it will allow you to use it as many times as you wish. You can see that the actual mouse has got the actual paintbrush attached to it. So you can then just highlight everything over. Because the mouse still has the Format Painter attached, you can go through and format anything in any other part of the actual spreadsheet too. When you finish with the Format Painter, just go back up, click, and it will remove the actual Format Painter from the mouse. Now notice that other expenses has only half the information displayed, even though when we look at the actual formula bar, you can actually see that the cell contents of F2, which is where we're at, this is your column F, this is your row 2, is other expenses, but it's not displaying the expenses in full. The reason being is that the actual text has to fit the actual column width. So we can manually widen the column, or we can actually use something called the wrap text. So when you click on wrap text, you will see it's wrapping the text within that column width. But it still looks a bit odd. So what you can do is go between columns F and G and then just drag it to whatever you think would be a suitable size. When you, if you over increase the actual column width, and you think, well, it's a bit too much, and you don't want to sit there and try and judge. If you, again, go to between the column G, F and G, and then double click, what it will do then is widen the column to fit the biggest entry in that column. So in this instance, expenses. So you can actually see now how the mouse shapes do help make it much more simpler for you to understand what you're actually doing. Now, whilst we've got the actual headings on the columns, they still look a bit unattractive. So what we're going to do is ask the system to center it vertically. And the way we do that is highlight the actual cells that we want to change. So in this instance, these cells. And again, right mouse click. And we can go into Format Cells and into Alignment. And there you can see we can center it vertically. And if we OK it, you will see how that starts to actually look much better. If we then decided we want to center it horizontally as well, easiest option is on the main toolbar, straight ribbon bar, and you just click on that and that will actually center it there. Now, the problem being here is again, the actual text has gone over the actual next column. It looks as though it's gone into column B when you're looking at this. In fact, it's still all in cell A18. So the word average, so just like other expenses was cut off, when we start to put information into this column, we will end up having only half of the actual text displayed. So again, all you need to do is go up there and double click between A and B, and you will see it's now widened it to the longest entry, which is percentage. So what we're now going to do is ask it to put in the actual rest of the actual month. So you've got January through to December. Now, some people may say, well, you can manually type it. Others would say you can actually scroll down using the actual AutoFill. So remember, the mouse, when it changes shape, it will do something different. So we've seen that will highlight the row or the column. That will actually drag to highlight cells. And when you're in the bottom right hand corner of the cell, you will see the skinny black cross. And this is the actual copy stroke fill command. So you can click and drag and you'll see that it will actually start to autofill the actual months of the year. The system, Excel is extremely sophisticated and intelligent. But there's also another shortcut. Here's the interesting thing. You will see that row 15 is the last row that has data on it. If we go to the skinny black cross and we double click, you will see it realizes that it needs to fill it sequentially from January through to December, because that's the actual last row. So the system actually works really, really well for you. With this cell, we want these cells, as in cells B5, 6 and 7, to also have 700. And again, skinny black cross, double click, and the actual system will automatically fill in those 700 for you. Likewise, the same with the 750. Again, skinny black cross, double click, and you will see the 750 gets filled in. The same thing applies here. This is actually wanting the system to continue the reduction. So it's 555, 554, 553, 552. Now, here's the thing. If you tried to use the actual skinny thing, all it will do is duplicate. So you would end up with 554, 554. So that's not what we want. We want it to actually decrease. So we want it to do the 553 and 552. The way you do that is you highlight the two adjacent cells, and then the system will pick up that it was decreasing by 1 unit. So therefore it fills in 553 and 552. So when you start to use Excel, you will find it does an awful lot of the work for you. So the next thing I would like it to do is to actually format this to 2 digits, because it all looks a bit haphazard. Now we could highlight just the actual cells that we want, but let's say we know that we're going to be working on the entire spreadsheet, so everything needs to actually be formatted for when we actually input information further down. So here you have what I call the global button. When you click here, it highlights every single cell in that sheet. And then if we go to the actual comma style, and we click on comma style, you will see that instantly it formats the entire spreadsheet. That means that even these cells will also have been formatted too. So you've got various different elements in Excel that will actually assist you in working and calculating and formatting. So now what we're going to do is get the actual system to add up for us. Now, if you were using this on a calculator, you'd say 700 plus 285.77 plus 67 plus 1276.50 plus 555. So you'd be sitting there keying in numbers. The only problem with us doing that is if we then changed a figure and realised that the actual heat for January was actually a lot higher, it was like 395.46, then we'd have to actually retype the actual figures. So rather than using numbers when we're actually doing calculations on a spreadsheet, we use the cell references. So here this would be cell B4, C4, D4, so you're going across C4, D4, E4, F4. So you could manually say this cell G4 is equal to, so you press your equal, and then you could say it's equal to B4 plus C4 plus D4 plus E4 plus F4. And then you press either enter or the green tick and it would actually put in the total for you. The problem with that is if you had 200 cells to add up, you will be sitting there pulling your hair out. So rather than saying it's equal to B4, C4, D4, E4, we have a button called the AutoSum. And the AutoSum will actually work out what you're trying to actually do. So it's saying, let's do the sum of, and it's saying B4, and the colon means through to F4. And you see it's highlighted all the cells that we want. So that's the correct formula that we want, so we can actually press the actual tick or enter, whichever you prefer. Now, this next row for February would need a similar formula, but instead of saying add up, as in create the sum of B4 to F4, we know that it would be, in fact, B5 to F5. Now, here's the interesting thing. This skinny black cross, if we click and drag it down, watch what happens. The actual formula has been rewritten. It now says B5 through to F5. And again, if you do the skinny black cross and you double click, you will see that it has done that consecutively. It's now got B6 to F6, B7 to F7, B8 to F8, B9 to F9, B10 to F10, B11 to F11, B12 to F12, B13 to F13, B14 to F14, and B15 to F15. So what happens is that the actual formula has been rewritten by Excel because it realizes that you're trying to actually go down a row, and therefore the formula has to be rewritten. That's because it's using something called referencing. And in a second, I'm going to show you on the PowerPoint presentation the referencing choices that we have available. But whilst we're here, we're going to ask it to add up these columns. Now, here's the interesting thing. If we do AutoSum, notice it's now going up and adding the sum of B4 to B16. But here's something even more clever. If you highlight all of those and then you say AutoSum, you will see it's kind of like with hashes. Now, the reason that you see hashes means that the actual cell isn't big enough, so we need to widen the actual column. So the easiest thing I would do is click on the actual global key, do that, and you will see that when we look at those formulas, B4 to B16, C4 to C16, D4 to D16, E4 to E16, F4 to F16, and G4 to G16. So it's the grand total. Actually, you wouldn't total the, you could do the total for the entire year's expenditure. So sometimes